Hey everybody, it is, I have to look at my watch, I don't even know what day it is. It's the 21st. Tomorrow is co-op, so I'm doing this on a Sunday afternoon. It is beautiful outside, so pretty today, and all my kids are outside. Husband's taking a after preaching nap, so I thought I would try to get in your lesson for this week while I had a minute. We are on Module 16, and we are on page 507. Remember, I cut you short a couple pages short last time because I wanted to do birds all in one clump rather than doing a couple pages last week and a couple pages this week. So, let's see, get my thing all set up here. Got my coffee, got my LaCroix. I'm trying to get comfortable here. I'm sitting on a blanket. Everything's a mess. My dog's asleep. Life is still not back in order, but I did go to the doctor on Friday of last week, and he said that I could go to light duty. So what I'm going to be doing in this time is trying to increase my stamina so that I can walk around or stand up for periods of time or even talk for periods of time where I'm just not exhausted. Being on your side, laying down for over a month is enough to wear you out and get you really out of shape. So it's a mess, but I'm getting better. Strength is gaining, and I'm working on that this week. Okay, page 507 at the very bottom, it says class aves. That means things that are aviated, things that fly, okay? And these are birds. Let's look at the characteristics of the class aves. They're endothermic. Endothermic means that they're warm-blooded. It means that there's something inside that regulates their temperature. Not exothermic, like we did with the reptiles, where they had to have something warm them. If you have a lizard in a, like an aquarium, those things you keep at home, if you have a pet lizard, they have to have a heating lamp on them so that they can maintain a temperature. And here, though, birds don't have to do that. Their body has the metabolism in order to help keep them warm. They have a 4-chambered heart. That's really cool, too. They have a toothless bill. No teeth here, just a little pecking bill. They're oviparous. That means that they lay amniotic eggs, and it's covered with a lime-containing shell. That's the difference, lime to leathery. Leathery is that soft, malleable shell, but if you've ever seen a bird shell, you know that they're hard. With our eggs that we eat, the chicken eggs, you got to crack them to get them open. They are covered with feathers, as you would imagine a bird to be, and the skeleton is composed of porous, lightweight bones. This is not the characteristic for all birds, but the birds that you see flying, they have to have some porous, lightweight bones in order to fly. Let's see, let's turn to page 508. Birds, when I said that they had a 4-chambered heart, okay? This allows the complete separation between oxygen-rich blood and oxygen-depleted blood, much like me and you. We have 4 chambers in our heart, and when our heart beats, on the first side of our heart, it rushes unoxygenated blood that doesn't have any oxygen in it, to our lungs. It gets full of oxygen in our lungs and then goes out of the lungs into the other side of the heart to be pumped through the rest of the body. So that's kind of how these birds are too. They have a 4-chambered heart that does the exact same thing. See, I already said that. I was looking at what I was supposed to read and just said it. A bird's mouth is in a toothless bill. They don't have to have teeth because they've got this little something inside of them that will chew for them. I mean, it takes whatever they eat and kind of grinds it up. And we'll talk about that in just a few minutes. Another characteristics of birds is their method of reproduction. Like reptiles, fertilization happens internally, and then they lay the eggs. The egg is not leathery, like I said before. It has a lime-coated shell, which means it's hard like lime. Lime is a rock. Let's see. Now, let's go over to page 510. We're going to talk about a bird's feathers. I remember the first time that I learned this, I think I was teaching my children in maybe second or third grade. We did some kind of bird study. It was kind of cool. And we also know that there are birds that don't fly. So we're going to talk about them a little bit, okay? Regardless of whether a bird can fly or not, they have to have feathers. Chickens have feathers, but they're not really flighty birds, right? Penguins have feathers, but they do not fly. Sometimes it looks like they do, though. You know, like when they're sliding across the ice. It's pretty cool. The feathers of a bird are both very strong and very light. They grow from a small structure called a follicle, just like your hair. Like we have hair, our hairs grow out of follicles. Well, so do their feathers. This resides right under the skin. If you pull your hair, you're going to know exactly where that follicle is because you're going to feel it at the nerve root. Let's look at our picture on figure 16.4 on page 510. This is so cool. Okay, let's start on the left-hand side. This is a shaft. At the very top, you're going to see the lines pointing to the length inside of where the actual feather part is. That's called the vein. The shaft it's put together with two parts. The quill, I always think about that. And the quill being where it attaches within the skin. But the quill is also a little hollow area, and that's why people used to use bird feathers for writing, because that little hollow tip would pick up ink, and they would take the tip of the quill and make a little point so that they could dip it in the ink and write pretty. How cool is that? So the feather has the two basic parts, the shaft and the vein. It's generally divided into these two sections. The bare portion of the shaft that connects to the follicle is called the quill, okay? While the portion of the shaft that holds the vein is called the rachis, or it says here rachis. The vein is composed of parallel barbs that originate on the rachis and extend outward. These barbs have two types of barbules. They can extend away from the barb, and one of the barbules is smooth and the other one has hooks. Now, in this figure 16.4, you can see exactly where that happens. Look here. You can see these barbs here. Now look at where it points to the smooth one. There's none of those little thorny looking catches, right? Well, the barbules that have hooks are the ones that have the little catches. And what happens is these smooth and catches work together, and the catches will hold on to the smooth and slide up and down them. So if I have two here, it can slide up and down so that when a bird extends its wing, those are going to separate out a little bit. Does that make sense? I mean, how cool is that? Well, one of the things that happens when a bird is in flight is often those little barbules come off. Now, this is what I think of it being like. You know how when a shower curtain, I don't know, a lot of houses have the glass doors, so you wouldn't know, but most of you all know what a shower curtain is and how it connects by the rings up at the top. So it's this long bar with the rings connected at the top. Well, this kind of works the same way. When we want to open the shower, we push everything to the side so all those rings slide down. the barbules with the hooks on them, slide down the smooth when a bird stretches out its wings. Every time I do that, I feel like I'm dancing. I've not been dancing lately. Makes my tummy hurt. So, anyway, so think about it. This has happened to us 1,000 times, especially with kids. Those barbules, that shower curtain ring, one of them pops off. So what happens is the shower curtain droops. That's not good when you're taking a shower, because sometimes the water will go on the outside. It doesn't do its job efficiently. That looks really weird, doesn't it? So, doesn't do its job efficiently. So, this is the cool part. What happens is a bird will take its beak and it'll know the spot that needs to be hooked back on. So the bird will take its beak, pick up the little barbule that has the hook on it, and hook it back on. Just like we would take the ring and snap it back on with our hands, the bird takes that and puts it back on. That's called preening. And the bird will fix its wing so that it can have optimal flight. What happens is if they've got a hook or two off, then there's a little hole or an opening that air goes through where they don't have the best aerodynamics. Isn't that crazy? Plus, when the barbules slide free, wait a minute, I lost my part because I wanted to say this. The birds, this is really cool, have this oily junk in their mouth that they can actually grease up those shower curtains, the smooth barbules. They'll grease it up so that those barbules will slide freely. What's really cool about this oil, though, is it also makes a bird relatively waterproof. How cool is that? That's just awesome that God created them to make their own waterproofedness. So that's amazing to me. Now, there are two different kinds of feathers. There are down feathers and contour feathers. Now, let's look at our little picture over here. Contour typically means what creates a shape. Something that is contoured has a specific kind of shape. So you can see in the figure 16.4, the pretty tan and brown part that sticks out from the vein, those are your contoured feathers. The little fluffy part at the butt of it, down towards the quill, is called the down feathers. Now, has anybody ever slept on a feather pillow? Well, when I was a kid, that's all we slept on was feather pillows. And I remember laying my head down and get stuck in the face or the ear, and I would pull it out, and it was this little sharp tip. The little quill area was very sharp, and the rest of it didn't just look like a feather like you'd go find outside, like when you're playing outside, y'all are high schoolers, when you're playing outside and you find a bird feather. It's not like that. These are like, poof, they're all fluffy. They look fluffy and like a dog. I mean, it's very fluffy. I don't even know another word to say, but those are called the down feathers, and they're really soft, and that's what makes it fun to sleep on. They're not sharp. They don't hold a big shape. They're just nice little feathers, and these are on the smooth barbules. They don't have to be readjusted. And what's really cool about them is that they're right close to the bird's skin. And so they provide a layer of warmth for the birds. These are especially helpful in birds who are in cold temperatures, or ducks and geese that are in the water a lot. So this gives them a little bit of cushion and a little bit of warmth, but it's a smooth, no hooked barbule. Then the contour feathers, the pretty ones, like you would find outside if you were laying in the grass or something. The contoured feather does have the barbules on it, because that is what has to be readjusted so that when the arms are arms are stretched out that they can slide on that smooth. I gotta tell my dog not to bark. JC, down. No bark. She barked this morning at 6 o'clock. Oh, and my husband had not slept. JC, my husband had not slept at all. And so, hush. She started barking at 6 a.m. and he had just fallen asleep and he had to be up at 7 to go preach. So needless to say, he is exhausted. That's why he's taking a nap. And the dog just about got killed this morning at 6 a.m. And now she hears a dog barking outside. You need to hush, hush. And here comes my big helper. So hang on just a second. Judy Ann. She's really wanting to go outside. Can you keep that to kind of keep her under control while I'm filming? Right, because I'm filming right now. You can say hello. Hello. There she is. She is a very good helper because she can follow instructions very, very well. But she can also make my dog quit whining. And a lot of times when the dog isn't doing what she's supposed to do, we have this training method. It may be kind of mean, but we have a squirt bottle because she hates water. So we have a squirt bottle, and if she's doing something she's not supposed to do, we'll give her a little squirt, and she stops. So I think it's a pretty good method. Okay, back to feathers, which JC does not have. Like scales, feathers are made of non-living tissue, like hair too. Thus, they cannot grow or repair damage. Birds must molt their feathers like reptiles shed their skin. And that's a lot of times why we see so many feathers laying around in the yard. You know, like when you're outside playing as high schoolers. I still like to go outside and play when it's not 1,000 degrees and when it's not 30 degrees. I still like to be outside, and I'm 27. We're going to stick with that one. Feathers do not allow for flight unless they are attached at the wings. That's another little thing to notice. Let's go to page 513. On 513, we're talking about the lightness of their bones, okay? Their skeletal structures. Most birds have a skeleton made up of porous, light bones. Penguins do not have such bones, but all birds that fly do. Remember we talked about how Pinglis is our flighting birds. I can't speak to save my life. What is wrong with me? Then again, when I'm in class perfectly healthy, I can't talk either. Okay, so penguins, my kids always called them penguins. And I think some of them might still do that because we thought it was cute when they were little. But we used to watch that show, 3-2-1 Penguins. I might have even talked about it before here. We love that show. We think it's funny. Kevin. Penguins don't have such bones. They do not have the light bones because they don't fly, okay? They need a thicker bone because of where they typically live. The bones of birds must be unique in subphylum Vertebrata. Okay, Vertebrata, remember, it talks about their backbones. It talks about how these bones have to be different than our blood-filled bones. Remember how we talked about that a little bit? So when we talked about Vertebrata, birds have bones that are full of air-filled cavities. Air-filled cavities. They're very porous. They make the bones very light so that the skeleton does not hinder a bird's ability to fly. Just imagine an airplane that's trying to take off, and it's loaded down with people. It's loaded down with cargo. It's got all this stuff going on. And could you shut that back window, please? It's got all this going on, and then they're like, I can't get this to the right elevation. So the first thing you do before you start throwing people out of the plane is you start emptying your cargo hold, right? If you needed to get higher elevation, you would take some of the weight off. Well, God did that naturally within a bird. The bird has very light, porous bones. Now, here's one of my favorite parts. One of the things that I really loved about science and nursing and anything medical, especially in biology too, we use a lot of these prefixes and suffixes. But these words are typically from Latin words on page 514. Now, you can go to a museum at any time or hear, the bird guy at the zoo. If he was really smart and wanted to intimidate you, he could say, Anseriformes. Today we're going to talk about the Anseriformes. Well, if you know the Latin terms, then you know what he's talking about. But I'm going to teach you some Latin terms that I think are really cool. I don't think any of them are on your test, but I think it's really cool how people named these birds. I think it's really cool. So let's start at the very first one, Anseriformes. Formes means the form of. It's the shape of. So when we're talking about these birds, and even the mammals we're going to talk about in a minute, there she is. There's that sweet girl. Say, "Hottie, honey." Yeah, she give me kisses right in the mouth. I bet she just licked her butt, too. You giving Mama some antibodies, ain't you? She's giving me love, y'all. So, break. I take love whenever I can get it. Do you want to teach about the animals? What's your yawn? Yeah. Do you want to teach about the animals, sweet girl? Let's talk about birds. You bark at them birds all the time, don't you? We gotta hide from Daddy today because he's out to get her. He's gonna get you. Yes, he's gonna get you. Oh, now she's gonna play with me. So she's gonna help me teach for just a minute. Ugh. So, the Anseriformes, the Anseriformes, I said fories like 3 times. Just ignore me. Anseriformes, formes means the shape of. It means what it looks like. So, where it says here the anseri, that means geese. So, the Anseriformes means swans, geese, and ducks. Because guess what? They look like geese. Isn't that crazy? Apodiformes. Apodi means no, without feet. So maybe I need to bring her to class with me. She would distract everybody because she'd be kissing everybody. Unless she smelled you and didn't like you, then she might bite you. She bit our neighbor the other day. Not a good thing. But he looked like an intruder, didn't he? Yes, he did. She was protecting me. So, apodiformes, A means without, podi means feet. So, these are birds without feet? No. Remember I said formes is their shape. It's what they look like. And these are hummingbirds and swifts. Look over on page 515 really quickly. See the picture of the hummingbird? Do you see its feet laying down? No, you don't see its feet laying down. She likes to lick. You don't see its feet laying down because when it's in flight, it looks like it has no feet. Isn't that the coolest? So let's look at the next one. I have to look at how to pronounce these 90% of the time. Charadriformes. That means shore. Charadri means shore. So these are plovers, gulls, and terns. I don't know what terns are, but that it also is a description for wading birds that walk along the shore, but they don't swim in the water. Okay. Let's see. My next one here, Cicconiformes, that means stork-like, and this includes storks and herons. Then we have Columbiformes. The term Columbi means white. I don't know if y'all are familiar with Columbine. Columbine was the school where the 2 boys went in and killed several people in a school, and that happened back in the 90s. It was terrifying and horrible. But the name was Columbine, the name of the school. Columbine is a very famous white flower, a beautiful white, just stark white flower. That's because Columbi or Columbi means white. So the columbiformes are pigeons and doves. Now, not all pigeons are white, but a lot of them do have a white characteristic, and that's why they're in this same order. Now let's look at falconiformes. What do you think they're like? Falcons. These are eagles, hawks, and falcons. They have a specific look. When they're flying in the sky around your house, you know the difference between them and a bluebird. You know the difference between them and an owl, right? Okay. Now we have galliformes. Galliformes means rooster. So these are turkeys, quails, and pheasants. They look, they're rooster-like. Next we have passeriformes. These are sparrow type of birds, robins, finches, sparrows, and nightingales. They're smaller birds that have a thicker belly, and they are like what you would see around your home, the birds in the trees, okay? In our area, at least. Then we have pelicaniformes. What do you think they are? Well, they're pelicans. They have the long area under their throated area. Some pelicans, it's a little tighter to their lower bill, but they fish with that. Let's see. This one I have a hard time pronouncing. It's Phoeniscioptiformes. I did that really good. Phoeniscioptiformes, and this it means, okay, phony. Actually, it says Sciopta, but let's look at it without the PTERI. That means Terry. Put your finger over that. It looks like Finico, which is like the phoenix. You know, the phoenix bird. I mean, it's a mythological bird, but the biggest thing about the phoenix, besides the fact that it's reborn in its own ashes, the look of it is that it has large wings. Large wings. The PTERI, that's Terry, that means wings. Y'all ever heard of a pterodactyl? Well, Terry means winged. Dact means toes or fingers. And so pterodactyl means there's wings on their feet. There's wings on their toes, their hands. And pterodactyl, is the dinosaur bird. But this one specifically has an example of these Phoeniscioptiformes, I messed it up that time, are flamingos. It means large wings, and flamingos have very, very large wings. They're beautiful birds, but take a look. There's some flamingos over here on the right-hand side of the page, the pretty pink flamingos. Look how their wings wrap all the way around their back. They're beautiful, and they do have a large wingspan. But this specific name was named after a Greek winged horse. So, kind of cool, but the term really does mean large winged. Okay, let's see here. Procellariformes. Procellariformes means for the sea. Pretty cool. So that's going to be albatrosses, petrels, and those seabirds. My daughter just went to Key West, Florida on her honeymoon, and there were some beautiful albatross birds there. They look kind of like seagulls, but their wings are huge. Really amazing. She sent lots of pictures. Okay, the next one will make a lot of sense too. Okay. Psittaciformes. I had to look at that. Psittaciformes. The psittacea means vocal. Parrots, parakeets, and lovebirds. They talk. They if they don't speak human words, they have a very vocal vocabulary to each other. They like to make noises. Let's see. Phoeniciformes. Phoeniciformes means penguin-like. So that includes your penguins. Strigiformes. These are called loudmouths. Okay? Strigi means loudmouth. The formes, these are owls. Owls are very loud. They have a very loud call that even when they're not really that close to your house, you can hear them at night. That's pretty cool. The last one we're going to look at here is really funny, I think, is the Strethiiformes. Strethioniformes. Gosh, these words. Who does this? That means strut. Look at the STRUT. They strut. This is ostriches and even emus, because when they walk, they've got this little strut in their little legs. They got long legs. So it's really pretty cool. Over the next couple of pages, it gives a little bit more information about each of these birds that we talked about, and it's going to be really good for you to read those. I don't know how it happened, but I just got this thing for birds. Yes, I do know how it happened. When Patrick and I first got married, we lived way out in the country. And we had these little flowers that bloomed on summer mornings called morning glories. And every day we would get several hummingbirds to those morning glories. And I just fell in love with them. And then in the same breath, we would have mockingbirds. I want to call them mockingjays. I've watched too much Divergent. So we would watch these mockingjays and how they would mimic the calls of other birds to lure them. And they're mean, man. They'll fight you. And then we moved out here to this house we live in now. And every year during migration season, we have these yellow-tipped waxwings. I had to look it up the first year that we had them. Hundreds upon hundreds upon hundreds of these birds feast off this tree in our backyard that grows these blackberries. Not blackberries, but the berries that are colored black. And it's amazing to watch them. I mean, it's like our whole family will, if we see one, Betty, we stop what we're doing. It happened a few weeks ago, right after my surgery. And they were really a couple weeks earlier. They normally come around the first or second week of February. But man, look them up on Google. Google them. Yellow-tipped waxwings. Man, they're beautiful. And they hang upside down in the tree to get to the what are they called? Gosh, berries. But I really fell in love with them. And then we just see all kinds of different birds here at our house. And I kind of became that weird bird watching lady because we have binoculars. And so we always check out these different birds. And when I find one, I have to look it up. And it's just amazing to see the different birds. I really do encourage you, because we're doing this module, to look out and see what's in your backyard. Look at the trees, look at the bushes. If something looks different than what you've ever seen, look it up. I mean, just type in gray bird with black and white head, and you might find you a chickadee or something of that effect. And they're so pretty. So anyway, I just think they're super cool. So go ahead and read through 517 where it's talking about the birds. Now, in this section on page 518, we're going to start class Mammalia. That is mammals. Now, it says we conclude our biology course, but not yet. I know I did things out of order because the next unit that we're doing is on plants, and I like to push it towards the back of the year so that you can actually see leaves. And right now, our leaves are still kind of sparse. Our trees are still bare. So we're going to look at those next week and a few weeks after, okay? So now we're going to talk about mammals. It is one of the smaller classes in subphylum vertebrae, but it nevertheless is probably the class that you'll most associate with because it's the things that live around you. As a result, I'll tell you what, we're going to talk about that in a minute. The term animal includes such creatures as sponges, hydras, fish, amphibians, reptiles, birds. So mammals is a smaller group of those, but let's look at their characteristics. Their skin is covered with hair. Now, when you think of an elephant, you might not think that they have hair, but they do. They reproduce internally. They fertilize internally, and they are usually viviparous, meaning that the egg is inside, and then the egg grows to a live birth. They nourish their young with milk secreted from specialized glands. These are mammary glands, mammary. They have a four-chambered heart, like I talked about before, a right and a left atrium, and a right and a left ventricle. They are endothermic. We talked about endothermic before, where we have this system in our body that regulates our temperature. When we are very active and we get our body up really, really hot, this part in our brain will start stimulating sweat so that we can be cooled off. When we are very cold and our body temperature starts to drop, we'll start to shiver. Our muscles will create friction and shivering, and that tends to warm us up just a little, okay? Mammals have hair. Elephants have hair. Whales are mammals, and it's even harder to see, but they have hair. It is there. Yes, whales have hair. Let's look on page 519. Mammals reproduce with internal fertilization. The embryos develop viviparous. We talked about that. It's where the egg, the ovary, the ovum is inside of the female. Inside the female, it is fertilized, and the egg will then develop into a baby by growing inside. It is mammal babies are not released in eggs outside the body. Okay, they're inside. We have what's called non-placental mammals and placental mammals. Now, it says we're going to discuss this in just a minute, but placental mammals have a placenta that they dwell in, and that's where they grow inside the mama. But non-placental animals do not have that. Here's your vocabulary word. Placenta is a structure that allows an embryo to be nourished with the mother's blood supply. Now, when you look at your body, you see a belly button. All God's children got a belly button, okay? So you have a belly button. It might be an innie, it might be an outie, it might collect dust and goop and all kinds of stuff. Seriously, you wouldn't believe the stuff I pulled out of kids' belly buttons. So crazy. I've even taken care of kids when I was working in pediatrics. When I worked with children, I took care of kids that their mothers would bring them in because their tummy hurt and they got this horrible rash, and turned out that they just let a bunch of gook get inside their belly buttons. And let me just say, it stinks. Belly buttons get stanky. So I have one little boy who, his little belly button, you could stick your pinky in. It's really wide and open. He always says, my belly button don't stink. He doesn't have anything in his belly button because his little belly is almost flat, but he still has a little scar there where he had an umbilical cord. Your belly button was derived when your mama had you. They cut the cord. The cord was attached to the placenta, and you did not share blood with your mother, but your own blood was created for your own body from this placenta. There are things that are transferred through medications, illicit drugs, some foods. I have one lady that I knew that she could not eat any dairy at all when she was pregnant because her babies would just go back and forth and be really, it would be very painful for her to eat anything dairy. And when her baby was born, she still couldn't eat anything dairy when she nursed them because it upset their stomach. And turns out that they had a lactose intolerance. And she couldn't even eat it when she was pregnant. So how crazy is that? So their whole family went dairy free, like forever. Kind of cool, but it just worked out for them. So the placenta is the structure that's inside the mother that supplies the baby with blood and nutrients. Let's see. Then there is gestation. Gestation is the period of time in which it takes an embryo to develop inside of the mother before it's born. So human gestation is 40 weeks. A cow's gestation, I think, is a few weeks longer than that. Seems like it's 46 weeks, something like that. An elephant, their gestational period, is that in here, or am I just knowing that off the top of my head? I don't know. I just know an elephant's gestation is 2 years. If I had to be pregnant for 2 years at a time, I would not have children. I did not do well with pregnancy, but I can have babies left and right. I mean, labor delivery is easy for me, but carrying them, I don't like. And I did it several times. So let's see. Mice have a gestational period of about 3 weeks. That sounds good to me. Horses is about 1 year. Okay, what it's talking about in this next little section is how mice, they have a short gestational period, but when they're born, they're blind, they have no fur, they take a lot of nurturing from their mother to be able to I'm sorry, there's a lot of distracting things going on here right now. They have to be nurtured from their mother while they're finishing this development outside the body. But horses, okay, I have become addicted. I might have told y'all about this. I'm not really addicted, but I really enjoy it. There's a show on National Geographic Wild, and it is called The Incredible Dr. Pole. It's also on Disney Plus. If stuff doesn't gross you out, I say watch it because it is so stinking good. I love it. I love it. I love it. But he's a vet, and he works with animals, exotic animals, and a lot of large animals like cows and horses and things like that. So when a cow or a sheep or a lamb or a horse is born, right after they pull that little calf or the little colt out of the mama, those babies stand up. They got a full layer of fur on them. Their eyes are wide open, and they're ready to eat and walk around within a few minutes. That is crazy, y'all. So when we have babies, you'll see newborn babies jumping up and walking around. So maybe that's why they have to gestate just a little bit longer, so that, no, JC, no. That's why they have to do that a little bit longer, so that our babies can mature, but they are inside a little bit longer. So God just created them to be mobile. That's exactly what it is. Now, we talked about that after a mammal baby is born, it needs to feed. And these mammals feed from glands that are inside the mother. So you all have seen a cow. I mean, I think most of us drink cow's milk, which is weird to a lot of people. But most of us drink cow's milk, and but you've seen, baby cows go into a cow's big full belly and udders. And then you've seen mommies, human mommies that breastfeed their babies, and these glands inside of our bodies develop milk, and it's the perfect nutrition for a baby. It's just what they need. And I know I have a pregnant daughter, and she's like, yeah, Mom, I don't know, that just seems kind of weird. And I'm like, you know what? God created you to feed this baby, and there is something so incredibly cool about nursing a baby and watching them get fat, just by how your body has nourished theirs. I mean, even my husband, as a man, said, that's amazing. And I can't imagine doing it any other way. So it's really, really cool. So anyway, but that's how it works. There's these little glands that produce milk inside of all mammal mamas. Okay. Lactating is when the mama actually produces the milk to feed the babies. Okay, now we're going to what I think is a super fun part, and it should wrap up part of most of our lesson today. Okay, go to page 520, and let's look at table 16.2. This looks a lot like what we did before. It looks a lot like what we did before, where we broke down all those Latin words. Well, these are really cool because, like I said, if you know what they mean, you can figure out what kind of animal they are. So let's look at the first one. Artiodactyla. The prefix artio means even-hoofed toes. Dactyla, even-hoofed. Toes is dactyla. Okay, so that's sheep, deer, bison, goats, pigs, and cattle. Now, if you ever watch Dr. Polo, you know what pigs and goats and bison and deer and sheep feet look like. It has a hoof that is split. The hoof, if you flip it over on the bottom, has two pedal points. That means that there's a split section on the bottom of its foot. And that is what this means, even two. Remember counting when you were in, I don't know, second, third grade, 2, 4, 6, 8, 10. Those are even numbers. Odd numbers are 3, 6, 9, 11. Get it? Did I miss one? 3, 5, 7, 9. Yeah, I missed a lot. I don't teach math. But that's what this means. Artio means even hoofed, so it's got two. It's split down the middle. Now look at this next one, carnivora. Y'all better know what that means because we've been over it 1,000 times, started in the first day class. Carnivora means that it eats meat, and it solely eats meat. Cats, dogs, and bears. Now, we tend to feed our cat and dogs. I don't have a cat. And if my dog don't start barking in the middle of the night, I ain't gonna have a dog either. But she loves me, and I love her. So, but these are carnivores. Sometimes we feed our animals vegetables and grains and all that stuff, but they were designed by God to eat meat. Now, let's look at Cetacea. That's a really cool one too. It means whale or dolphin-like. Ceta means whale and dolphin. It's like the shape of the fish. Go to the next one. Chiroptera. This one is so cool. Chiro means hand. Ptera means winged. So Chiroptera is a bat. Think about what a bat looks like. How when they spread their wings, it looks like big long fingers that are winged together. How cool is that? So, I got fluid in my ear. I'm going to rub right here and see if that loosens it up a little bit. I've done this so many times to children and grown-ups. Tapped sinuses to get them to flow. So, Cairo. What do y'all think of when you hear Cairo? Not Egypt. Like a chiropractor. Well, what does a chiropractor? Practor means practices. So what does he use? He uses his hands to adjust people for medical treatment. So Chiroptera means winged hand, like a bat. The next one is Dermoptera. Derm means skin. Ptera, P-T-E-R-A, means hand. These are flying lemurs. If you've ever seen one, they have like webbed fingers, and it helps them fly, helps them jump. They don't really fly; they kind of float. E dentata. E means without, and dentata means teeth. So edentata are anteaters, tree sloths, and armadillos. They ain't got no teeth. Hydrocordia. This one, or Hyracordia. This one, I don't have a real. I have looked up all that I can think of for the Latin on this, and it's the whole word. Basically, it means the hyrax, which is a very specific animal, and it doesn't really apply to any other animal. So y'all can look that up. It's not discussed anywhere in here. Insectivora, and vora means eat, like vor. Remember, it's diet. Insecta, what does that mean? Exactly. It means it eats insects. These are shrews, moles, and little hedgehogs. They're so cute. I kind of want me a little hedgehog, but I don't want to hold it all the time. Let's see. Lagomorpha. Morpha is similar to Formes. It means its shape. Lego means hare, H-A-R-E, which means a rabbit. You know, a hare and a rabbit are pretty close. So that's what this is. Hares, rabbits, and pikas. And these animals look like rabbits. Look at pikas, they're super cute. I don't think I have a picture of one here, but they are. Okay, let's see. Marsupialia. That means, the word marsupialia means that it has a pouch. That is kangaroos, wallabies, koalas, and possums. They give live birth, but they are non-placental. So they give live birth, but they, on the inside of a pouch, they still have to grow a whole lot. When kangaroos are born, they're teeny tiny, and they have these little tiny nipples in the pouch that these babies grow off of, but they have to stay inside the pouch to continue growing. Where was I? Okay, Monotremata. I can't read my own writing. Okay. Monotremata. Mono means one. Tremata means nothing like. Okay. So the word monotremata means nothing like this one. Okay. So these are the duckbill platypus and the spiny anteaters. Now, a duckbill platypus looks like it was just leftovers of things put together, right? But God has a specific purpose for its design. If y'all ever read anything about platypuses, platypi, I don't know what that is. Anyway, and the spiny anteaters, you'll see that they're very different from their counterparts that you might think they're similar to. Monotremata, not like anything else, not like any other mammals. Now let's see, we have Perissodactyla. Now we talked about before how the the dactyla means toes. Perisso means uneven. Now when we talked at the beginning, we had Artiodactyla, but this is Perisso. Perisso and Artiodactyla means even hoofed. The Perissodactyla means uneven. So on a horse has underneath its little foot, it has that little shape here. It's the shape of like a horseshoe, and it goes very deep in there, but there's no cleavage there. There is no mark that splits that up. Horse, zebras, rhinoceros, and tapirs. The next one is Pholidata. This means that it has scales that look like dots. These are the pangolins, and pangolins, not penguins like my children said. Pangolins are scaled anteater looking things. They're very strange and different. Check them out, okay? Then we have primates. Primates are monkeys, lemurs, and humans. Humans are classified into the primate order, but there's more to that. So we're going to talk about that as we close, okay? Primates are monkeys, lemurs, and humans. They have a lot of characteristics that are very similar. I like this next word, proboscidea. Proboscidea. It says proboscidea, but I always say proboscidea. Proboscidea are, that pro means in the front, and scidia means trunk. So this is a forward trunk. Now, what do you think of when you think of a forward trunk? What do you think of, Annie? If I tell you that an animal has a forward in front trunk, what animal do you think of? What?
An elephant.
An elephant, that's right. See, my 10-year-old and my 12-year-old knew that straight up.
I love that.
Yes, he loves elephants. So elephants and mammoths are extinct, but elephants and mammoths were pro-trunk. The trunk was in the forward spot. Then we have rodentia. What does that sound like? What does rodentia sound like? A rodent. What's a rodent?
Or is it nasty bug?
No.
Is it an animal?
Yeah.
Oh, it's a rat.
It's a rat.
Oh, yeah.
Or a mouse, a rodent. Aren't you glad you have classmates in here with you right now? But a rodent, they're squirrels, rats, mice, porcupines, prairie dogs. But let's see what that means, okay? A rodent, dent, again, means teeth. Rodent means that it gnaws. Now, here's a cool fact about these animals as well. Their teeth never stop growing. So if their teeth, if they don't gnaw on things to smooth their teeth down, their teeth will overgrow and they die because they cannot properly chew their food. How cool is that? And I will tell you that I learned that off of The Incredible Dr. Pole. Y'all need to check this guy out. He's a Jesus lover and you can just see it all over him. So The Incredible Dr. Pole, it's on Disney Plus. The Nat Geo Wild, and if you have cable, then it's on the what is this Nat Geo Wild channel? Ours is like 1472. I know that because I've been watching it since I had my surgery, and while I was on some of those meds, it was really interesting. Oh, don't do drugs. Okay, so this one is called, the next one is called Sirenia. Now, the term Sirenia means seductive. Okay, those are manatees and other sea cows. Now, do you know, did you know, are you just listening?
No.
Okay.
I also gotta ask you something.
Okay, well, you're not going to ask for till I'm done, okay? So, the Sirenia, the seductive, these manatees, that's what people called mermaids. And so, have you ever heard about the mermaid song? Oh, you know, they have this beautiful song like a little Ariel. Well, the manatees would say that they had a siren, that they had a seductive sound. And when they would hear these animals, they called them, they made this idea that they were mermaids and they were calling seductively to sailors. But then again, Larry the Cucumber really likes Barbara Manatee because she's the one for him. Barbara Manatee, she's the one for me. Do y'all need to catch up on your Veggie Tales? Last but absolutely not least here is the Tubuli dentata. Okay, Tubuli dentata. Dentata is dent, the teeth. Tubuli means tubes. So think of an animal that has a large tube. It's an aardvark. It's an anteater, and he's got a long tongue, long sticky tongue, goes down inside that ant hole, licks around, pulls them in, and chews them with his teeth. They're in that little thing of his tube. It's kind of gross. Okay, let's look at the pictures of our animals over here. I think that they're pretty self-explanatory. Koala is a marsupial. The lion is carnivorous. I don't think he sits down to a salad or tofu many days. The dolphin is whale or dolphin shaped. Then we have Proboscidea, that is the front facing trunk. The zebra, Perissodactyla, that means that he has an uneven number of toes, which, and this is very similar to the horse's hoof. Then you have a mountain goat. He's an Artiodactyla, that means he's even-toed. He's got the split underneath his hoof. A prairie dog is Rodentia, and isn't he the cutest little thing? But he's considered a rodent, just like a rat. Now, once you break it down, like I said, that these are in the class, so once you break it down a little bit more, it splits up a rat from a prairie dog. The snowshoe hare, look at that pretty bunny. Lagomorpha means that it's in the shape of a hare or a rabbit. And a baboon is a primate. Now, I will tell you that, she's sitting here. I can't say it. I'm going to say it anyway. When we got our little baby Annie, she was 5 months old, and I swear she looked like an orangutan. She was the funniest looking kid, and she was very, very skinny. And when she was 5 months old, she only weighed 9 pounds. A lot of babies are born at 9 pounds. She was 5 months old. She starved to death. And in the first month, I made her really fat. And she looked just like, I wish I had a picture right here. Oh, I do.
No.
Oh, hush, Annie. I'm going to do it. Let me see. Okay, I don't know if y'all can see that. That is her when she was just little. Doesn't she look like a little orangutan? Look at that little mad face. Is that not the cutest little kid you ever seen? Oh my gosh, I could eat that. And she was mad at the world. I mean, this kid, I don't know if it's because she was starved for the majority of the beginning of her life or what. But man, she was mad at everything. Turned out, and she always did this. She always looked at us like she's mad. Turned out, the little thing couldn't see. She was legally blind. I mean, it was bad. Her vision was so bad. So when she was like 2.5, 3 years old, something like that, we went and got her first pair of glasses. Holy cow. We walked out of it can make you cry. We walked out of the doctor's office with her little glasses on that first time, and she went, look, a cloud, look, a bird, look, the ground, blue, green, yellow, pink. I mean, she was just amazed, and she was still kind of hateful, but she didn't have that look on her all the time. She was doing this, like somebody who can't see. Like if a lot of times I'll go, it's because I can't see. So that's what she did. And now she's got, now she can see through walls. Her daddy tells her that all the time, that she has super spy eyes, that with her glasses on, she can see through walls. That's her superpower, is she has super good vision with her glasses on. But she's so cute. She's not a baby anymore. She's 12. She's 12 years old. Okay, the next few pages basically just gives you a review of each of those little areas that I just told you about, all those different animals. But I want you to turn to 526. I'm going to read this word for word from the book, and then we're going to go over one little thing before we close. I'm at an hour today. If you needed to break at any time, you always know that you just pause, go do what you got to do, and come back. Some people not only object to the fact that humans are classified with primates, but they also object that we're even in kingdom Animalia. Instead, these people want a sixth kingdom solely for human beings. However, this does not make sense. Humans share all of the characteristics of mammals. I even pointed that out when I talked about how we feed our babies. We're covered in hair. We make our own temperature. We fit all those characteristics. Why then would you not put them in class Mammalia in Animalia? Some would say that this implies that human beings are animals, and that this demeans the status of the human being who are made in the image of God. However, that's only true if you're referring to the common usage of the term animal. The fact is, scientific terminology is much more precise than common terminology. And when a scientist says animal, it means something quite different than when a non-scientist uses the term. By putting human beings in kingdom Animalia, phylum Chordata, remember that means we have a spinal cord, class Mammalia, women make milk for babies, and order Primate, we are simply stating the obvious fact that human beings have features in common with other organisms classified in the same way. An orangutan is a primate, but my daughter looks like one, or she used to. So she's really pretty. I don't even know where I was. This does not imply anything about how human beings were created. Human beings were created in the image of God, and that makes us unique. He did not create gorillas in the image of himself. He did not create George the monkey. What's his name? Curious George, in the image of himself. Human beings were created uniquely in the image of God. Of course, this is why we have our own genus and species, Homo sapien, which means wise one. That's pretty cool. Now I'm going to go back because I have something written on this first page that I want to read to you. Hang on, apparently I've lost it. Okay. Here we go. Genesis 1:26. Then God said, let us, that is a plural form. When it says God right here, that means Elohim. Elohim is the plural form of a triune God. And that's why it says, let us make. Okay, he's talking about Father, Son, and Holy Spirit as a triune vessel. Then Elohim said, let us make man in our image, triune God, according to our likeness, triune God, and let them rule over the fish of the sea, and over the birds of the sky, and over the cattle, and over the earth, all the earth, and over everything creeping that creeps on the earth. So even though the taxonomy system is not designed, like I said here, let's skip really quickly, where I said Artiodactyla. Now, that's sheep, deer, bison, goats, pigs, and cattle. Does a pig look like a deer? No, but they have the same characteristics. And that's why humans are put into that same scientific characteristics. It finds this likeness between us so that as we go down, we can see that there is a big difference between monkey and man. Unless they look like an orangutan. She can't help it. I hope y'all can hear her over there going, oh, teenagers. So, like look at the baboon there on page 521. Now that might look like somebody's Mamaw Ethel after she hadn't plucked and tweezed for a few weeks, but this is different. God created us, Homo sapien, the wise one, okay? Homo means same. We were created in the same image as God. And We're special. We're unique. The further you break us down, the bigger you see the differences, like a deer and a pig. The further they break down into those differences. So do not be offended if someone calls us animals, because we are in Kingdom Animalia. That's just how they break us down. Do not be offended if somebody puts you in a primate. We stand erect. We use our hands and feet. We have a lot of similar characteristics. Even our DNA is very similar. However, God's Word tells us that our triune God, our Father, Son, and Holy Spirit, created us in their image. And that is powerful and mighty. And I hope that if you can come away with anything about Mammalia, is that you were created in His image for perfection. And also that when we look at other animals, we are to be their steward. We're to take care of the animals. We are to, sometimes that means killing bugs, because bugs sometimes can get overgrown and become unhealthy for its own population. So you kill them. Sometimes groups of deer can carry disease if you don't do population correction. And that is where hunters come in and hunt the deer, and people benefit from that. I've told you before, my family truly benefits from our friends that are hunters, because it provides us a freezer of meat for all these people that live here. We are to be the steward of these animals and creatures, and even the most vile ones, the gross ones, we are to be a good steward of them according to God's Word. We are to be dominant over them. I love my dog, but she's not my baby. I'll call her my baby, but I know the difference between my dog and my child. So I have dominion over her, and she knows it. She knows that as a human, I have dominion over her. It's a beautiful thing that God has given us here in this class. This phylum of Animalia, in this kingdom, and in the class of Mammalia, and as it breaks down all the way to the wise ones. So this week, you have your On Your Owns that will be due next week. So finish up the On Your Owns for this module. It goes all the way to 1625. That's a whole lot. So go all the way to 1625 and have those sent to me by next Monday, 5 o'clock. Please get those in on time. A lot of them are coming in late, and I am counting off on your score for turning them in late. You also have your study guide that I gave you, and that should be in your packet. Work on that. By studying those things, it will really help you take your test, which is included. So next Monday, what is due on Monday the 1st? Is that right? Yes. On Monday, March the 1st, is due On Your Owns, your test, and your completed study guide. I will give you credit for that study guide, so please be sure and get that done. Have all those to me by 5 o'clock next Monday, and I will see you soon. I do want to tell you that I will probably be returning on March 22nd. That is my date to be back in class. It's right after spring break. I would have been in on March 8th, but we're off. We're off the 8th and the 15th. We have 2 weeks of spring break. And so be watching for your videos for next week. And also be ready to be back in class on March 22nd. And I will be there, and we'll struggle through it together. I'll see you all very soon. Bye. Oh.